Hello and welcome to another messy live session. Today we're still working in Rive, and last time I was having very huge difficulties grasping the concepts of hug, feel, and what's the last one? Fixed. And it really almost broke my head. it really almost broke my brand, my brain. Ooh, my brain live. So I did some research about this concept offline, and I'm back with some answers. And mostly, I think what was giving me difficulties is that um, this concept of hug and feel, it's about um parent and children relationships between the two nested layouts. But what's unusual, at least in my experience, is that the relationship can be ascendant or descendant, meaning that in the case of hug, it's the child that controls the shape of the parent. And this is something that's, yes, that's very new to me. And so I will illustrate that in a sec. But from what I understand, it's something that has been around for quite some time. Uh, and it's been popularized by Figma, apparently. And yes, it was new to me and um, very hard to grasp on the fly. But yes, it's something that a lot of people would have had no difficulty understanding because it's pretty standard. So, yeah. So what I did to understand it better was to consult the Rive the Rive documentation that you can find online pretty easily, and also what I found, which is pretty interesting and that I wanted to share, is that when you look for the for Rive documentation in Google, you as the second result you find the GitHub repo with their documentation, and this is pretty handy. I'm not sure it's done like that with other apps. I do not really see Adobe, for instance, putting their docs like that on a public repo on GitHub. But one sec. But why is it cool? It's because you can, after that, easily clone it inside of a personal repo, and now you have it ready for your AI to question the documentation. So you can both read. So I'm sorry, I'm not displaying the correct thing. Rive documentation. So here I've downloaded and cloned the repo inside the VS Code. And you can see that I have the exact same stuff. Maybe you can't see it, but it's the same content as the website, except it's in the form of MDX documents. It's a kind of Markdown, apparently. And UT Rive documentation. Editor, AI agent, constraint data binding fundamentals. Yes, for instance, this page. Artboards are the foundation of a file. Artboards are the foundation of your composition across both design and animate mode. And if we go back to the artboard page, it's the exact same content. The foundation of a file, the foundation of your composition across, blah, blah, blah. So I probably should have both here and switch like that. Yes, It's better than what I did before. And as you can see, I ask questions to Claude inside the agent column, and it can read the whole documentation and give me way more accurate answers than it would have if it just did it from memory and without searching the web. The web. Not good today. So, yes, hug and feel. So let's demonstrate it a little more clearly. So it's an occasion for me to keep learning it and see if I did understand it correctly. So Shift L for making it a layout. So now my layout is fixed inside the artboard, and if I say that the artboard is hug, it should, after that, artboard container relative layout. I don't know why it's not a relative layout. Oh, because it's in absolute position. Yeah, I remember that now. So you must have it in constrained by parent instead of absolute position in order to have those functionalities working. So hug, yes. Now it takes the size of the image layout. And if I am to resize the image layout, it should move the artboard accordingly, and it indeed does. But if I'm to resize, and this is the part that really broke me last time, if I'm to resize the artboard, and I'm doing that with the artboard, but maybe I should rather do it in another nested instance because it's more likely to happen that way. So now let's make this instance no hug like we were before. So now I move the image layout and it follows. But if I am to change the size of the parent layout, which is in hug, it would break the hug constraint. Oh, I did that weirdly. It would break the hug constraint because if I'm telling this layout that it should be sized like that, well, that means I'm no longer hugging. And that's why it's not broken. It's behaving correctly, but for me, it was very counterintuitive. But it actually makes sense. As if you control the size of the parent in the case of hug and you resize it, you're exiting hug by definition because hug is about following the size of the child. So if I want to find again that, I go back to sorry, to hug, and now I can do that again. So let's invert the relationship. Let's say that I want to explore what it means to be feel. In that case, pretty much looks like it's doing the same thing as hug, but normally I should be able to resize. So maybe I didn't really understand it. No, it's because this one is fixed now. So this is the one that should be fill. And now you can see that it's indeed filling this one. And this one doesn't need to be. So fill is looking upwards for um, transform informations, whereas hug is looking downwards to get transform information from either the child or the parent. Mm, do I make a schematics out of that? Yes, maybe. Let's see if it's useful. Mm, so let's move to Excalibur and huh, I really needed to be more efficient with that, but no. Okay. What? Okay. I guess I erased it, but I didn't want that. You know what? I will not do that here. It will be embarrassing again, but I'll do it offline and add it as a screenshot somewhere. Now, okay, so this goes away, and let's go back to this. So what's interesting also is one sec. Once you have that, you can sorry, you can put the image out of the layout and it still gets resized the same way. But mm, I'm confused with what I wanted to share here. And yes, if you do that, it resets the transform of the image, which is interesting, I think. You can probably do reset stuff just by getting out and getting back in. Let's test it. So if I am to move that around, okay. Now I do that, take it out. It's back at the origin and put it back in and see, transform is reset. So that's not uninteresting. I don't know how useful it can be, but resetting position has been something I've been doing a lot in a ton of other applications. So, but you can probably just do it like so. Anyways, okay. So, and likewise, if I transform that here, it also breaks the relationship. What I haven't tested yet is what if I fill the child and hug the parent? It should be unbreakable. So fill makes it so that nothing exists anymore. I'm not sure exactly why, but it makes the whole setup only 1 pixel. And hug, same. Same. It's forbidden. So let's move back to fixed. And yeah, so I think you get it. And let's see if now I do fixed. Huh. I'm not sure why, but because if I get them out and you yeah, okay, so this breaks, yes. Let's see if, knowing that I can finally do this one without screaming that it's nonsense, I don't get it, it's all broken. Because let's face it, it was really incompetence and lack of knowledge on my part. So I just need to take a super quick break and I'll be back in a sec. Sorry. Which one is it? Yeah. So I think what we can do is go back to the tutorial and go back to the step where I started to fill
This doesn't really matter because we're going here.
This one.
We wouldn't be selecting the background. Okay, so the artboard's probably going to need to be a little bit bigger to fit all of these components in it. So I'll just move it over here and change its size.
Okay, so what was it already? I was pretty sure that, yeah, it's Control Alt and the wheel to, okay, outside of the canvas. Okay, in an artboard. Oh, no, okay. I see. So inside of an artboard, no. There is no such nuance. I'm just being misguided. So Control plus wheel to zoom in and out. Okay, let's go back to filling this artboard. So maybe we can skip there.
Like that. Component, I'm going to nest a component over here is now being nested in the menu artboard. And I know what you're thinking, this is quite messy, it's going over the edge of the menu artboard. Well, if we just go up here, we can clip. Now, I want this background to cover the entire space of the menu artboard, no matter what size the menu artboard is. So, I could shrink it like that, and then, the background would have to scale down to stay covering the background. And if I, lengthen it out like that, it would have to scale up. How do we do this? Well, just highlight your background component, and then go over here and change its mode from node to leaf. As you can see, its fit is currently set to fill. So it looks a little bit squashed down. And this will be more evident.
So this is the same kind of things, but is it because because I do not have such options in here, unless I haven't seen those. No. I'm intrigued. So let's make you a component. Can we duplicate our boards? I'm sure we can. Yes. And you're not a component. Now let's create a new artboard. It was A, I think. Yes. Okay. And what was it? No. Right click. No. I forgot. N. No, I need to go back to the
If I change
video.
the position to 0 by 0, you can see that it is the background. So with menu selected, tap N to nest a component and click, and then you have a drop down.
Okay, so you have to tap N to nest and click. Okay, I can take artboard, and I can only take artboard because it's the only component. I see. So it was mode. No, was it? Yes, it was mode, node or leaf. So we really need to understand what node or leaf are. So I will take that as a note.
Of all of your.
Is that serious? Okay, so let me check. If I'm full screen, I cannot control tab. That's unfortunate. So, and that is also very annoying. Why does it keep erasing my stuff? Oh, I have this is the first time I ever used the eraser inside of Excalibur, and this is the reason why I understand the difference between leaf and node. So let's make it leaf. Okay, so now it's leaf line center. Okay, so it looks like leaf lines the sizing of the two artboards. I'm not sure why it was at that position. Does it inherit some kind of... Oh. Is it because I clicked here with N? Yeah, I think it is. Absolutely. So, new information. An element, when you summon it with nest, it arrives at the exact location where you clicked. Okay. Back to leaf. Back to be aligned. And we had different options. Cover. So, yeah, okay. Let's try to have that one have a sizing that makes sense, because right now it's not super easy to see whether it's a good fit or not. What did I do? So you are supposed to be okay, so not everybody's fixed, which is not really what I wanted. So let's back to fill, and now I can, yeah. So I learned that F allows to focus. Maybe it's not focus, but to frame. Well, it's probably rather frame to frame an artboard, which is pretty handy. Okay, so I think this aspect ratio is okay. Now, this artboard. So it has possibility to hug again, except now it's not doing it. It doesn't want to. Artboard must contain the relative layout to, okay, so it's not a relative layout, this. Cover, fill, so contain, okay. So fit width, okay, fit height. At the moment, I fail to see what's the difference between those fit options and contain and cover, but maybe it has something to do with rotation. None, so it keeps its original sizing. Scale down. Okay. So it fills, and so if it's fill, it should be the artboard that's controlling. Yeah, it is. Okay. Node. Wait a sec. Hey, where is node? I'm confused. Oh no, it's on this one. Yeah, okay. Layout. Does it make it? Yeah, okay. So if it's set to layout, it obeys the rules of a layout that we saw earlier. Interesting. So let's go back here to node and no, to leaf, and yeah, fill, and be happy with. So now if I do that, still fill, still leaf, the artboard is still controlling it, but the aspect ratio, actually this time it respects the transform. So this is the behavior that I would have expected the first time around, because each one has its own transform, and the parent multiplies its own transform on top of the child's transform. but no. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. And how? Okay, so it's because I see. It's only affecting scale. So when I do that, I'm breaking scale. I'm not touching position. I see. Okay. So let's reset that. Is there some kind of shortcut to reset scale or to reset any parameter? I don't see one. One thing I think Rive is lacking is, I'm sorry, I think I might be just a tiny bit blurry. Yeah, sorry. I think that one thing Rive is lacking now is some kind of contextual help. Houdini has that. A lot of software has that, and it's super helpful. And I would love to see that in the future. Okay, let's go back to the motorcycle. Okay, let's go back to
components. I'm going to select background. So here it is. Our background component over here is now being nested in the menu artboard. And I know what you're thinking. This is quite messy. It's going over.
What? Oh no. What's happening with YouTube? Great.
Have everything arranged using layouts. We can now start using data binding. Once again, data is the background artboard, no matter what size. So it stretches and does all of that. We don't want that. So instead of filling the artboard, we want it to cover the artboard, which means that if we change the size of the artboard, it scales up and down to always cover the background. Before we...
Yeah, it's interesting. I would be interested in understanding more precisely the algorithm, but I think I get what it does. It's always scaling according to a dominant side that is the reference, and it keeps aspect ratio while doing that. But that's probably not a very good way to put it. But
populate the menu artboard, I'm first going to change a couple of things about the item component. First of all, I'm going to hide this text description at the bottom. Then I'm going to change the size of the component to be a little bit smaller. I've done this because this is what it will look like in its initial state. The last thing I'll do is highlight the item column and change its background color to be 20% opacity. Okay, we're now ready to populate the menu artboard. Tap N.
Moment of truth.
To nest a component. First off, we have the arrows, and I'll just pop them in the top left corner. Shrink them down a little bit, and I'll add some text. I'll set the text to say, select your moto.
Okay. I don't know why it seems like it does, but so let's do that. Okay. Let's nest the arrows like it did. Arrows. Make it smaller. Use the text tool. Select your moto.
And then change its color to be black. Now I'm going to add some more text. Say class, change that to be black. And now I'm going to nest 4 different item components. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so it does it for each. Oh. B, who are you, B? Oh, bone, clearly. You're a bone. Yeah. So rigs are absolutely not for today. I'm not so much of a rig person. I almost never did character animation, so that's not really something. It's something that intimidates me. So it was N, not B. We will never press B again. No, no, never, ever. Okay. Let's go back to it. Item. And item. And item. Okay. We probably aligned those, but let's not do.
4. Don't worry if this looks bad. We're going to be changing it as we go. Over here, I will nest the stats. And in the bottom right corner, I will nest the start button. Okay.
Nest stats and then nest the start button. Okay, so what did I do? What is this? Component instance. Go away. You were a mistake. So stats. And now start. All right.
Before we start putting these elements into layouts, you'll notice that when my mouse is hovering over this artboard, it highlights the background. Now, we've already set up the background exactly how we want it, so we don't need to select it anymore. So I can just go over here and lock the layer. This just means that if we were to click here, we wouldn't be selecting the background. Okay, so just like we did before in other components, we're going to start with the smallest elements first. That will be these two elements. I'll tap Shift L, and it looks like they've been put into a column when I wanted them to be put into a row. That's fine, we can just change that over here. We can change the vertical gap that we don't need anymore since they're not.
So let's do selections. Okay, so we have a row.
A column, we can add a horizontal gap. And as you can see up here, it seems like the text is being pushed.
Then horizontal gap. I think we have more. So let's see what we have here. So, okay, it's hug by default, which makes sense actually. I'm starting to understand why hug, because it was pretty unclear to me. But if you want to group and want nothing moving, you would need that. You would need a bounding box that fits exactly your elements. Hence the hug. I'm seeing the light. But can I invoke no, not an artboard. Select, translate scale, items. So if I use a rectangle, it will create a shape. It's not a layout element. I don't know if you can create a layout element by itself. And in that case, it would be nice to have it to fill, because if you're starting with the layout, that means you probably want what you put inside to fill whatever you did. Maybe that's not how we work. I don't know. Keep losing myself. So now can I align once I have? Oh, yeah. And the other day I found that you can Control R to rename quickly. So this is select and arrows. And there was another thing that was handy that I found in the documentation, but it's for a little bit after that. So I want you to V align. I was about to press V because my brain is Photoshop wired. No, I don't see the alignment options anymore. Layout selection, clicks, position, function by parents. So the parent is hugging, right? Okay, so position absolute. Yeah. Okay, that's what I felt that earlier I aligned those, but when hugging, it break my alignment, and now it's like so. Anyways, let's move on. I think I'm starting to understand.
Towards the top of the row, and that's because we're currently aligning the children to the top left, and we can change that to be the center left. It is now more vertically aligned. Next up, I'm going to put these 4 items in their own column, so just highlight them all in your hierarchy and tap Shift-L to put them into a column.
And we probably want the spacing to be regular. 20, I think it was. I'm not sure.
Next, I'm going to put these 2 elements in their own column. Then I'll put...
Okay, so it's hugging again. Yes, it is. Ah! You know what? Let's get rid of that. Okay. Shift L. Nice little hugging column. So last time I was struggling with alignment, so it's probably just that. Since it's hugging, that means what I kept broking the other day was that, but if I change the height like that, oh, it's not doing what I expected. Nonetheless, it's already, I already feel better about that. So you are the start. And you are the stats. It's not easy to see. I will call that not specs, like scores. Okay, so
these 2 columns in a row. And finally, I'll put these 3 elements into a column.
okay, so that's a lot of nesting. So you are right. And you are items. So you 2 are nested. Shift L. So this is central. And now we pick up everything and put it inside of a column. Okay. So this is the comp.
Awesome. Everything is set up using layouts. However, it's not set up properly. If we were to change the size of the artboard, you'll see that the only thing that changes correctly is the background.
This is the moment of truth. I know I said that already, but this time it is for reals. Okay. First thing is that why don't I have, what did I do? Why don't I have controls select? Okay. Because I somehow changed that. Maybe I pressed E. I think I was, oh, that's not very standard. Or at least it's not what I'm used to, but so QWE. Okay, so not standard to me, but pretty convenient disposition. V is standard. V is very standard. Okay, I have the same thing he has.
So let's change the various fitting and alignment settings. The first thing I'm going to do is highlight the outermost column, turn off absolute positioning, and then change it from hug to fill the width.
Okay. I think I want to show the thing that, so last time we saw that you can select something deeply nested with a control click. It was, no, apparently you can jump with double click. So I don't know if it's only with, okay, so yeah, so I wonder if I change the name, if, okay, so yeah, it's really instancing. Name. Yeah, okay. It's really instancing. I cannot edit that. The instances are not editable yet. I don't think they are. Because if I'm diving into that one, yes, item is its own unit, so you cannot access what's inside the component. That makes sense. Okay, I kind of, oh yeah. So since item is the smallest unit in this stack, control clicking does select it. But if I'm, what was it? It was Alt, I think. Yeah, you can Alt. So you can escape to climb up, and you could. I forgot. I took a note, but I did not save it. And now I don't remember, but I think there was a way to dive in and another. So climbing up is with escape, clearly. But there's also a way to dive in. I simply forgot what it is. What does Alt do? Okay, Alt clicking allows you to dive in further and further until you control. Okay, that's the trick. So if I sorry, if I Alt click here, it will dive step by step until I select the very last element. But it's on double click, not on simple click. Okay, so control click is simple click, but the dive behavior is double click for some reason. What if I simply double click? Okay, it's not about alt, it's about just double clicking. When you double click, you dive, and when you escape, you climb up. That was the trick. It's pretty basic, but if you don't know it, you don't know it. So, okay. Back to the tutorial.
And
Okay, so
fill the positioning, and then change it from hug to fill the width, and fill the height of its parent, which is the artboard itself. Then I'll add some padding around its children, let's say 50 and 50. Then I'll select this row of these two elements, and I'll set that to be filling the width and filling the height. But as you can see, this column is currently not touching the right edge.
not too fast. So, comp. You're the one that we need to switch to. Okay. It's not starting well. Because I should be able to feel you. Why am I not? Oh, constrained by parent. That was I was missing. So now you're filled. Why is it not? Why is it not feeling? No, no.
Even though its parent is filling. Fill the width and fill the height of its parent, which is the art background. So let's change the various fitting and alignment settings. The first thing I'm going to do is highlight the outermost column, turn off absolute positioning, and then change it from hug to fill the width and fill the height of its parent, which is the artboard itself. Then I'll add some padding around its children, let's say 50 and 50. Then I'll select this row of these two elements.
Okay, so it wasn't filling because fill doesn't mean that you completely fill.
And I'll set that, which is the settings. So I'm using
Because
layout.
when it did that,
two elements vertically aligned. Next, I'm all in next. And finally, I'll put these three elements into a column. Awesome. Everything is set up using layouts. However, it's not set up properly. If we were to change the size of the artboard, you'll see that the only thing is fitting and alignment settings. The first thing I'm going to do is highlight the outermost column, turn off absolute positioning, and then change it from hug to fill the width and fill the height of its parent.
Okay, so the layout is filling. It's this blue thing, and the content is not moving because it's only the layout that is filling. So maybe my behavior is correct actually. Yes, it looks like the layout is filling correctly. Huh. So I was crying because I expected that this whole what I called comp would already resize, but probably it doesn't because of what's inside is not configured correctly. But the comp container itself, it's called a layout, not a container. The comp layout is behaving correctly. So let's add the padding, and it's already showing some effects, which is nice. And now I broke it because I should have been moving the artboards. Now it should move. Okay, I think we saw some padding in action right there. Okay. We're doing fine.
Which is the artboard itself. Then I'll add some padding around its children, let's say 50 and 50. Then I'll select this row of these two elements, and I'll set that to be filling the width and filling the height. But as you can see, this column is currently
row, which is our central piece, is now fill. Okay. Moving. Okay. What? Oh, I don't like that. This is weird. What the heck happened? What did I do? Oh, I forgot to lock the menu. Okay, maybe not everything is lost. Go back to your previous state, which was hug. And you are fill. And you're following fill. You're following menu. Now I did block you. Okay. Let's go back to that. We said that we needed to lock that. Okay, so locking means that you can't change it, I think, but not that it's unresizable. So, central, hug, concerned by parent. I think we are
not
good.
touching and filling two elements, adding around its children, let's say 50 and 50. Then I'll select this row of these two elements, and I'll set that to be filling the width and filling the height. But as you can see, this column is currently not touching the right edge, even though its parent is filling the width. This is
fill. The column is not. So I guess now this one is lined with comp, except for the padding. Okay, we're good.
because its position is currently being determined by the horizontal gap between it and its sibling. So let's get rid of this horizontal gap. You can see that the two elements are currently being aligned to the top left, but we can spread them out by clicking here again. Now I want the...
Yeah, because it respected when we nested them together, it hug at the current position, keeping this value. And now that we are filling, it kept the initial value, making it look like that. Yes.
Start button to be touching the bottom and aligned to the bottom right. So let's go into this row, select that column and change it to fill its parent, get rid of the vertical gap, align it to the right, but then click this again to spread out the children.
So, yes, double click. So you now it's you that is feeling. vertically. And now we have those vertical inheritance of the initial layout. And okay, right, getting there. I'm very tempted to do that. Ooh, it's starting to work. I feel so goofy.
And finally, I want to reduce the gap in between these items. So I'll select this column, and go over to its vertical gap and change that, even though this doesn't really matter because we're going to be replacing this element soon with an actual list. And now if we select the artboard and change its size, the different elements move accordingly. Okay, now that we have everything arranged using layouts, we can now start using data binding. Once again, data binding is a way of creating and controlling various properties.
Okay, so we did defeat this first boss that was really unkind to us. But honestly, I think we should work a little bit on the spacing here as well, but maybe he tackles that later. So let's not get ahead of ourselves and listen to the data binding part, which sounds pretty interesting.
That you can use to control your designs and also as conditions in the state machine. But the interesting thing about these properties, called view model properties, is that you can actually control them in code. So if we had data binding in this file controlling these numbers, these view model properties would be exposed to the developer who's working on your project. And that doesn't matter whether or not it's in an app, a game, or on a website. Rive has...
So we're talking about view model properties.
Is that you can
view model properties. Let's see if it exists inside of the documentation.
Actually control them in
view model. A view model is a blueprint for a collection of data. Developer might think of this as similar to a class object in object-oriented object-oriented programming. View models typically describe all of the associated data with a given case, commonly one per artboard. View models themselves don't have concrete values. For that, you must have an instance. I think I understand, but I'm pretty sure the details are trickier than what I think. It's too bad that all the YouTube videos of the help are broken. The links are broken. I'm sure they still exist somewhere, but it's not that easy to access them at the moment.
In code. So if we had data binding in this file controlling these numbers, these view model properties would be exposed to the developer who's working on your project. And that doesn't matter whether or not it's in an app, a game, or on a website. Rive has a whole bunch of free open source runtimes that let developers access and control these view model properties. So with that being said,
a lot of open source runtimes. Okay, so that means that the data out of the Rive file can be accessed. I'm not sure exactly, but it can be formed however you want to fit the project you're working on. Okay, I'm just saying stuff he already has said in a much more inefficient manner. But
let's create our first view model property. So let's select our menu artboard, and over here you can see the view model that we renamed earlier. And if we go over to our data panel,
model,
we can see it here. I'm going to create a number property.
Okay,
we can see it here. I'm going to create a number property, and I'll call it index num. And now over here you can see that index num has a default value of 0, and we can change this to be whatever we want, but I'm going to leave it as 0. And now that we have this property, we can now use it as a condition in our state machine. But which state machine? Since each artboard and component actually have their own state machine. Well, I'm going to use it in our backgrounds state machine. So with background selected, we're going to go from design mode into animate mode. And down here we have our state machine. Now for some reason we have 2 state machines. That's actually incorrect, so I'm just going to delete that one. And we'll work with state machine 2 in this case. We have a timeline, and inside our timeline, there's no keyframes, so nothing is happening. I'm going to go back to our state machine, and if I press play on the state machine, you'll see that timeline 1 plays all the way through once. Now what I'm going to do is delete this transition, drag entry over here, and move timeline 1 up here. And I'm going to go over here and create 3 more timelines. Move state machine to the top, just to keep things tidy. And now in timeline 1, I'm going to animate the solo that we have in our hierarchy. So if you highlight the solo, over here, we can set a keyframe for whichever bike we want to be visible. So in timeline 1, I'm going to set a keyframe for the black bike. Timeline 2, blue. 3, green. And 4, white. Excellent. We now have 4 different timelines, each with their own unique keyframes. We can go into our state machine and drag the other 3 timelines onto the state machine stage. And we can create transitions from the any state to each of our timelines. Now, an any state basically lets you transition from any state to any other state. And I'm going to highlight all 4 of these transitions and go down here and create a condition for all 4 transitions. And this is where we can use our viewModel property index num as a condition in the state machine. So for our first transition, we can say if index num is equal to 0, then we transition to timeline 1. If index num is equal to 1, then timeline 2, 2, timeline 3, and 3, timeline 4. Now, if I was to press play on this state machine and then go into our data panel, you can see that we don't have index num available to us to change. This is because index num is contained in the view model for the menu. And so right now, if we wanted to control index num, we need to be playing the state machine for the menu. So let's highlight our menu artboard and press play on its state machine. And you can see index num up here. And we can change it to 1, 2, or 3. Awesome. That is the simplest use of data binding that we're going to have in this project. Now
Okay, so this is definitely a switch node created in a weird manner, which I'm sure has utilities, but it seemed a bit convoluted to me right now. I especially didn't like the fact that you had to create a keyframe on each timeline, but maybe there are faster ways to do that. Anyways, it seems pretty interesting, but given the fact that it's been an hour of live already, oh my god, I hope yes, I did. I did get out of be right back screen. Well, so this looks like totally a subject for another day. I'm pretty happy that I mostly get it when it comes to the feel and hug and stuff like that now. It's been pretty new, and hopefully my struggle would have helped somebody with the same interrogations. And yeah, anyways, it was fun doing that live, and thanks for watching. And